Thank you, Mark. Our next speaker is the host of the Joe Thomas in the Morning in Charlottesville. Joe Thomas in the Morning Show in Charlottesville, and also Freedom and Prosperity radio programs. Please welcome our dear friend Joe Thomas.
Woo! See, I took it out, I put my gloves on. Right. See, John likes to show how tough he is. Next year he's actually going to go without the overcoat. I'm famous for saying on the radio over and over again that if compromise is so good, how come the phrase victim of compromise exists? Many things, that's true, but we stand here today actually celebrating America's original compromise. When it became apparent that the Articles of Confederation weren't working as a structure for a country that was still under pressure from both the French and the English to join them and to quit this silly idea of being independent, and we can do so much more for you. Of course, the French were almost bankrupt at the time and were about to go into their own 25-year revolution, but that's another story. And the Constitutional Convention came out of a convention convened to tighten up, to fix the problems with the Articles of Confederation. Needless to say, several people, many of them very notable Virginians, said, whoa, 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 that's not what we asked you to do. What's this Constitution stuff? What's this we the people stuff? What's this centralized government? We're not voting for that. And when Patrick Henry says, I'm not voting for that, it carries a lot of weight, even back then when we didn't have Twitter. And James Madison was a bit of a wonk. I like to point at the three guys on the wall there, and I say, you know, one was the dreamer, one was the policy wonk, and the third was the deal maker. And maybe of those three men, the one who would appreciate our current incoming president the most would be James Monroe. Because it was Monroe who eventually, after some time and some heel digging, got James Madison, perhaps, story goes, playing to his vanities a little bit, that he was so smart that couldn't he come up with a better Bill of Rights than the one that he was against putting on, which was basically a copy of the one on the Magna Carta, which implicitly made it seem as if the government was giving these rights. And so Madison wrote this document, so artfully worded to sound so awkward. But even to this day, and as Mark pointed out, all of these, except maybe the third, come under slings and arrows on a regular basis. Yet they're all still here, 225 years later. The Second Amendment, perhaps most of all, we just watched what the right of the people to protest for a redress of their grievances has done to a local business, not 2 blocks from here, 3 blocks from here, ACAC. And the public said, we don't want to go there and spend our money if you're going to have concealed carry permit holders here. And the business owner had to make a decision. But that's the way it's supposed to work. The government isn't supposed to come in and say, no, Phil Wendell, you're not allowed to have concealed carry, or you're not allowed to prohibit concealed carry. It's not supposed to be the government's job to determine that. So this document, and I want to thank the Jefferson Madison Regional Library for putting these out, and specifically for the artwork they put under Amendment 1, which, if you have it, is a printing press. Because I think I've told this gathering before, the most misunderstood phrase in this Bill of Rights is the freedom of the press. It has nothing to do with the news media, outside of the fact that they use a printing press. And as we enter the Twitter presidency, I hope we get to a point, and I brought this up with Wayne Cruz of the Competitive Enterprise Institute this morning, that perhaps we should look upon the internet as a publishing house, or more appropriately, a library of publishing houses, And that instead of trying to regulate them the way they regulate my industry, the broadcast industry, the government would realize they have no control over a printing press, and that the internet is just a series of individual publishing houses named Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Save the West, and that what you print there, by that same token, is your responsibility to be honorable about. And that's the other part of this that we forget, and I'm going to wrap up here because I know we're all cold. But these rights come with responsibilities as well. And that's where they face their biggest challenge. It's not somebody in the hall of government twirling their mustache and saying, "Oh, ha, 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 I'm going to take away your Second Amendment rights." It's here in our sloth. See, there was a list of 7 problems, 7 weaknesses we all have as humans, and one of them is sloth. And if we don't do the hard work of making sure we're responsible for these rights, then we will lose them. And that's where I hope that we can get to as we enter the Twitter presidency and publishing on the internet becomes even more democratic than it was in the days of Thomas Paine and James Monroe 225 years ago. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you, John, for holding this every year. It keeps getting colder every year, but we keep coming out. God bless America.